So, very, very interesting result this weekend in which Leeds United set out in the first half and were roundly beaten in that first 45 minutes. Chance on chance on chance on chance for Manchester City, but something changed at half time. And in this video, I'm going to talk through what those changes were and why that makes the decision on Daniel Farke's future, that, let's be honest, we all know is inevitable, a little bit more difficult for the 49ers, and ultimately the signs that we need to see in order for that decision to be made in either direction. Before I do so, just a quick warning, I'm recording this at 1:40 am because I've had a hell of a lot of work to do today. In addition to that, I will try and get a Chelsea preview recorded on Monday to go out on the day of the match itself. However, I don't know how I'll be for time, and beyond that point, I've got a baby coming this week, so there'll be a bunch of pre-recorded stuff that is just ready to go, and that'll be absolutely lovely. Hopefully you guys are understanding of that. Sorry. I say sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm having a baby. I'm very happy. But you can deal with a couple of days of pre-recorded content. It's fine. Anyway, to dive into the match. The first 45 minutes were exactly what we've seen fairly consistently out of Leeds United this season. The other side getting chances and chances and chances and forcing Leeds back, and I think in the first half Man City had an XG of more than 2, or something daft like that. They were all over us. We were mauled. Phil Foden, for example, managed to score the first goal of the match within a minute, which is a sign of how easily we are stripped open. It again came down that left-hand side, and again, I think the left-hand side gets a little bit too much critique, to be honest, but it was a fully changed left-hand side, so at this point you have to think there's probably something systematic that's going wrong there. And it was again a case of a midfielder drifting into the box completely unchallenged and just sliding the ball home, which you immediately think is problems. It got a little bit worse later in the first half when we conceded a second goal, and that seemed to completely put us down. Before I get into the later parts of the match, I'd just like to make a note on that goal. 2 different reasons that goal should have been disallowed. The first is that the shot beforehand is wildly offside by Phil Foden. So, brilliant save from Lucas Perry to keep it out, but the shot should have been called back for a free kick anyway. For some reason, wasn't. In addition to that, there is a big foul on Lucas Perry in the build-up to that second goal. Like, Bernardo Silva might as well be giving him a cuddle, and that's why Perry isn't able to get anywhere near the ball. But that's by the by. Leeds go into half-time 2-0 down, and I will be honest, at this point I was playing a game of how big can the number get, because I thought the second half was going to turn into an absolute mauling, and it was not going to look very pretty at all. But things went a little bit different, because Daniel Farke did what he hasn't done all season, and he made the proactive change, which is something that just hasn't happened at all. He made a change before the other manager, and not only a change within the system itself, because typically that's what he tends to do. It tends to be a case of, okay, so we'll just bring on another winger for a winger, striker for a striker, midfielder for a midfielder, and we'll stay in the same tactical system. Not this time. This time the 2 changes were to bring off both wingers. Sorry, I've got the hiccups now. That's good. Were to bring off both of the wingers and put on Jakob and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. For such a long time, people have been begging for this 3-5-2 to come out of a Leeds United side. And now we had it. Now we had 3 centre-backs, we had 2 centre-forwards. And this, for me, was going to decide the future of Daniel Farke. If we still got hammered, then Daniel Farke probably has to go. But we didn't. Because from that point we showed a lot more fight. We were a lot more solid defensively. Man City did very little in that second half. The third goal, again, Phil Foden. But that's a relatively fortunate goal. It's a very nice goal, obviously. Comes through a crowd of bodies. Lucas Perry can't see it until it's too late. Slotted into the corner from outside the box. No complaints from me. Brilliant finish. That's going to happen. But we did a hell of a lot. In terms of going forwards, Bogle had a lot of space in front of him to just race into, and it was the same on the other flank with Justin and Gudmundsson when Gudmundsson came on. A little bit more detail on that. I personally think Gudmundsson will suit this system better, so I cannot wait to see it when he's just sort of fully rolling with it. That'd be absolutely wonderful. In addition to that, that back 3, seemed really good at retaining possession because it didn't rely on Ethan Ampadu dropping between to provide that third option. So it meant we had someone a little bit higher up the pitch to receive the ball. So you can think, right, okay, do I go across to the other centre back? Do I go backwards to the other centre back, or forwards into Ethan Ampadu? And it gave us a little bit more of a dynamic in there. And at the end of the day, when you look at that second half, we beat Man City 2-1 over 45 minutes. And I know that football isn't played like that. I know that they were winning in the first half and game state and all this kind of stuff. But that's a hell of a turnaround from what was effectively Leeds United rolling over onto our backs, showing off our bellies and going, do what you want. Which it's brilliant to see that we got a little bit of fight to us. And if we're able to repeat that, then absolutely spectacular. We could be on for not only survival, but a nice little climb up the table. But that's where the conversation comes in. That's where we get back to the Daniel Farke's job conversation. Because I'm sure everyone agrees that we need to do better than we have been doing this season. That's not a question, that is just fact. And the question is, if we've seen here that the 3-5-2 is a big progression, is a massive step forward, it improves us without a doubt. We don't know whether it will do the same at home, don't know whether it will do the same against all opponents, but we've seen it for 45 minutes, and those 45 minutes were bloody good. If we get to the match against Chelsea, that I will be honest, I probably won't be able to watch because Labour, but if we get to the match against Chelsea and we are somehow, some way, seeing a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 as the system that we are going out with, that's just going to bring all the questions racing back. Maybe there's an argument that it's at home, fine. But it's still Chelsea, and they are still a far more dangerous side than we are in terms of player quality, etc., etc. You add on to that Liverpool after that. You go into Anfield, I think that's the Anfield one. I'm not sure. Hello, Iris. The cat's here now. But you're going to play another top side. And if we've gone from 3-5-2, which works really, really well, and Daniel Farke has had the lecture put out in front of him, we'll use a metaphor here. Daniel Farke has had that lesson told to him. He's got a PowerPoint, he's got the slides, he's got all the information that he needs, and he can see that's a lot better than it was. So if he then hasn't learned that lesson and decides to go back to the 4-3-3, that's where I think the job becomes untenable. Because if he goes to a 4-3-3, goes 3-0 down in the first half against Chelsea, and then goes back to the 3-5-2, then that doesn't matter. Because you've made the change. Don't unmake it and then make it back again. Because at that point, it is just a case of negligence. And I don't think we can afford that right now, because we have very, very thin margins. And the more we're able to work within those margins and get those further little bits of advantage, if we get a point against Man City, then that makes up for the fact that we are dropping. Hello. That makes up for the fact that we lost in the last minute against Bournemouth. Bournemouth, Fulham, one of the two. But we didn't. But at least the system is a decent foundation for that. Personally, I don't know if Daniel Farke is the long-term manager at Leeds. I don't think he gets past the end of the season no matter what, even if we do survive, because the first half of the season's effectively said, you can do better. But I think these next two games, we can't learn any lessons from the Man City match until we've seen Chelsea and Liverpool. And that is what I'm waiting for now. But, as always, that's just what I think. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if there's anything particular you want to see from the channel, that kind of thing. Subscribe if you're not yet, become a channel member, all that fun stuff. And I will see you all later. Toodaloo. Meow.